Welcome back to News Talk. Coming up for you later in the hour, news you can use about Metro. WAMU 88.5 reporter Martin DeCaro joining us with that. And Politico's Benton Ives with the latest on the shutdown showdown that threatens to leave federal agencies without enough money to stay open. Right now, though, let's get back to our conversation with, and your phone calls for, Republican strategist Raynard Jackson and the Reverend Graylin Hagler. I think it was you, Reverend, who referenced the comments, the sort of mind-boggling comments, really, that presidential candidate Ben Carson made when he said that we should never elect any Muslim American to be president. Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter the person's beliefs, what they bring. If the answer is if it's Muslim, yes, then it's president, no. Does that dovetail with the conversation we've been having?
Of course. I mean, it's part of it starts with Donald Trump and sort of his racist code words that he put out there, rapists and murderers, right? And then there's some good ones, of course, right? But it also, in a sense, it's these folks now that are engaged with Trump and trying to outflank Trump, that is trying to, in a sense, outcompete with him in terms of the most racist things you could say, the most xenophobic things you could say, and in many ways, I'll use it, the most stupid things you can say.
It's the perils of the primary if you let yourself go there.
That's right. That's right. And that's where they're all going, because that's what Donald Trump has done, is pulled everybody to the right, and I would say to a new low.
Yeah, but here's where I would differ with you, Rev, is there's a difference between being racist and having certain beliefs. You can be against amnesty for illegals without being racist. You agree with that?
You could possibly. I don't know. I don't know what the motivation is. I have to see the motivation.
Regardless of motivation,
no, I got to see the motivation.
If you come into the country and break the law, I'm against that. Not because you come from Mexico. You could come from the Soviet Union, for all I care. You broke the law, but you overstayed your visa.
The Carson comments, which I want to get your reaction to, go directly to the notion of a religious test. And the people, I think the majority of people listening to us now don't think there should be a religious test or to falter and claim a religious prohibition.
What he said was not racist. It was stupid. But wasn't racist.
It was xenophobic.
I mean, no, here's what you see, Bruce.
Did it make any sense at all?
Well, no, here you have an inexperienced candidate. That's what you saw. An inexperienced. This is one of the downsides of having an outsider who's not a career politician. Because any career politician would have not said what Ben Carson said.
But be careful. Don't make too many apologies, because I think then you miss the reality. Because the real thing that was going on there is that Ben Carson is trying to, one, do what Donald Trump has done. Donald Trump is playing to an angry white base.
I'm angry too. I'm part of that base. But I'm not white anymore. I self-identify as black right now.
All right. But understand that he's playing towards an angry white base, because there's this angry white base that has materialized every time that we have gone through any type of process that almost symbolized racial equality. There's been a backlash. And there's a backlash that has gone on, particularly because of Obama in the White House.
But what I keep trying to...
And let me point out this, because one of the things that's also going on is no coincidence that even though he has said that before in his book, Jeb Bush, and has made the comments sort of similar to Romney's comments that were made, there is this pervasive feeling out there that we must tell white folks that we're going to stand in the breach and make sure black folks don't get what folks are handing out.
But what I want to make clear is there's a distinction between making a statement that was stupid and being racist. There is no body of evidence in Jeb Bush's background that says he's a racist. He said something stupid, but when you look at Jeb Bush's body of work, it's very good.
But you just made a statement. He don't have any black strategists around him?
That doesn't mean he's racist.
Wait a minute, he doesn't have any black strategists around him?
Not that I know of.
Okay, and you're going to still try to play to the black community, and you don't have no black strategists because you don't value the black community.
Well,
and that's what the point of all these folks is, that they don't value the black community.
Okay, what about Bernie Sanders? What about O'Malley? What about Hillary?
Well, Bernie has talked to me.
But you said black, though.
But I'm black.
Oh, man. Hey, give me a one-word reaction to the Ben Carson doctrine that if you're Muslim, you should never be president. No Muslim should. How about un-American?
Well, no, again, I know Ben Carson. He doesn't come from a bad but again, I go back to that. He made a statement, and he's an inexperienced candidate That's why he went there.
But he's engaged in this competition to try to woo angry white folks out there, and that's what this is all about. With Jeb Bush, even with Ben Carson, with
There's
Donald
not enough
Trump,
of these angry white folks to win elections.
Well,
Mitt Romney
but
proved that.
But that's what they understand. They understand this. They understand that when you look at the demographics of the country, basically the white male Southern voter that they're identifying as angry, generally conservative, independent, right, and go to the polls in numbers and faithfully, where that does not necessarily connect in terms of people of color that go out when there's something to go out for.
But there's not enough of them, though.
But that's not the equation that they're using. That hasn't been the equation that they've used in a while.
I want to go to the phones. We can pick up on line 2 now. I do want to get, as a strategist, I want to get, I think Reverend Hagler is leading us to an interesting question, and I want to get your thoughts on that question in a moment. But first, line 2, Charles has been waiting patiently for some time. Charles, thanks for watching. Go ahead, please.
Yes. My name's Charles Lockett. I am a disabled Vietnam veteran, and I live in Washington, D.C. Can anyone give me an answer as far as why does racism still exist in this country and it don't exist in other countries with all the interracial marriages taking place? No president for over 400 years has ever come up with a solution to stop racism in this country. Thank you.
I'm going to... the nice thing about having a pastor here is we can turn to the pastor for answers.
Well, that was even a speech I made in Rochester last week. But one of the things, and it comes back to what you keep doing, right, is that we can't deal with racism because we refuse to call racism racism. We call it something else. We call it classism. We say, oh, that was just an unfortunate remark. Oh, well, he just doesn't know any better. In other words, we never, ever bring it out in the open and dissect it and make it something that, therefore, transforms hearts because we don't refuse to talk about it. And we live in places in this country where most folks, and particularly a lot of white folks, don't even have a reference point with anybody of color. Have not seen a person of color, let alone talk to a person of color. So they walk away with all these assumptions, and the country has never, ever had even a conversation, a real conversation around race.
As a political strategist, as someone who hopes to grow and diversify the party, Raynard, I want to get kind of, Reverend Hagler's referenced something a couple times that I think is worthy of further discussion. And now I forgot.
I have
long wind up, no pitch. Where am I going here? I have too much beach on the brain.
You talk about the lack of diversity in the Republican Party.
Yeah.
I have been a critic of the party for decades on this issue.
No, I know what I was going to say. The poll of the primaries, and you see it sometimes in a robust Democratic Party. The poll is to the left. You have trouble tacking back to the center in time for the general election. When you have the sort of robust launch that Donald Trump had, and you consider the themes that we think used to help propel him into the top spot in terms of the polling, are you worried that these guys are trying to connect to the Trump energy and maybe even outdo themselves in terms of the themes that Trump has touched on in order to pull him down from that top spot?
Well, no,
in terms of the long term, in terms of what is clearly has to be the long-term imperative.
But here's where I would criticize you guys in the media, Bruce. That a lot of people that support Trump, you only see the white folks, these so supposedly angry white voters out there. There are a lot of blacks like me that agree with what a lot of things Trump is saying. Now, obviously, his theatrics, that's a different conversation. But I agree with a lot of things Trump is promoting in his campaign. And so the media has not covered blacks. And there's no unanimity within the Hispanic community on illegal immigration. It's split 50-50. And so Trump is not out of the mainstream. The coverage of Trump has been out of the mainstream.
I don't know. I think that's an exaggeration that the debater in the Latino community is split 50-50. You know, and even theologically, when you asked me that question earlier on about so-called undocumented workers, you know, I'm a believer of the ilk that everybody has a right to be here. Everybody. Right?
You're out of the mainstream of your own party.
And I still have that belief. It's a theological belief, and I believe that God did not create borders. And so,
but also God said your first responsibility to your own home.
I got to approach it right. That way. My home is this earth. But I won't argue that too much more.
Great, Raynard Jackson, thank you both very much for a great conversation. As always, we'll see you guys again next time. We appreciate you being with us today. An update for you on the hour's top stories and the forecast when we return, and then why your next ride on Metro may take longer than you would like.